Hello everyone and welcome to Financial Intelligence. In this video, I want to talk about an interesting topic that has been on my mind for the longest time, and that is the US government debt. My main goal is to put the huge US government debt into perspective and increase awareness about how much money we owe collectively. This video has three main segments. Number one, key points to consider regarding the US government debt. Number two, putting the total US debt into perspective. And number three, putting the per capita US debt into perspective. So let's get started. Number one, key points to consider. I want to mention that I'm not a conspiracy theory kind of a person. All the numbers that I'm using in this video are based on government reports, and I am going to add the references in the description section below so that you can check them out. It is critical for us to learn how much the US government debt is. That is because these numbers are so large that we cannot comprehend them. They actually remind me of astronomical distances, because sometimes it is really difficult to appreciate the difference between these big numbers as they keep growing. And I think this is dangerous, because if we stop paying attention, then politicians are going to go wild with their monetary policies. I also want to point out that this video is not focused on politics. I think that both parties in the US are to a large extent in agreement in their approach to monetary policies. I also believe that as a society, we need to really raise our consciousness about the government debt and start a more proactive discussion about how much we owe collectively. At the end of the day, we, meaning the working people, are going to pay for these debts. Number two, putting the total US debt into perspective. I'm sure that by now you have seen the growing US debt chart somewhere. It shows that the US government debt, the red bars in this chart, has doubled in less than 10 years. In Q3 of 2020, the total debt was about $27 trillion. Well, these numbers are huge. Let's use money stacks, money carpets, and money lines to make sense of these big numbers. The height of a stack of 27 trillion $1 bills measure about 1.8 million miles, which is 8 times the distance between the Earth to the moon. The area covered by 27 trillion $1 bills measure roughly 110,000 square miles, which is the size of the state of Nevada, the 7th largest state in the US. The length of 27 trillion $1 bills laid end to end measures about 2.6 billion miles. This would reach from the Earth to the planet Neptune. It is also equivalent to 30 times the distance between the Earth and the Sun. Another interesting point to consider is that the debt is also growing at a staggering rate because of interest rates. There's an interesting website, www.usdebtclock.org, that shows the US debt in real time. I decided to time it and see how long it would take for the US debt to grow by $1 million. Can you guess? You will be surprised to know that it only took 22 seconds. Yes, and only 22 seconds for it to increase by $1 million. By the time you're done watching this video, the US debt will have gone up by roughly $20 million. Number three, putting the per capita debt into perspective. I think this is the most important part of this video. I wanted to give you an idea of how much each of us owe. So I decided to include per capita US debt numbers in this section. In order to do this calculation, I only took into account the number of employed people in the US, because At the end of the day, the burden of this debt is on the shoulders of people who are working and paying taxes. That number is about 125 million people at the time of recording this video. If you take the total US debt, which is $27 trillion, and divide it by 125 million people, you will get the per capita US debt number, which is, are you ready for this? $216,000. You can buy a property like the one shown in this image using this money. What this means is that each employed individual owes $216,000 because of all the debt that the US government has accumulated over time. It is like making mortgage payments on a house that you are never going to be able to live in. Some people might argue that this is the government's problem and they're not going to participate in paying back these debts. Well, the bad news is that everyone is already shouldering the burden, and participation in this program is not optional. I'm going to create another video to explain how we are already indirectly paying for these debts. The government has deployed monetary policies and hidden taxes to collect the money it needs to pay off these debts. So stay tuned for my next video. I hope that you like this video. If you have any suggestion or feedback, please add them in the comment section below. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video, and also hit the notification bell so that you don't miss any of our future videos. Thank you and take care.